It's time to express some anger. And what am I expressing anger about this time? The fact that there is still a huge negative stigma towards mental illness. And how I feel like a lot of people out there who are battling mental illness, whether it be schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, anxiety, or any other form of mood disorder or mental illness, I feel like there are way too many people out there who are being denied their full potential, whether it be in their career, their relationships, or life in general. When in fact, it needs to be known that telling someone who's battling mental illness, you can't just use a quick fix-all routine to help someone overcome the illness. It's like telling someone who's depressed that they just need to get out there and get some more sun. Or they just need to get out there and do something with their life. Or maybe someone's suffering social anxiety. It's not as simple as just telling someone who's got social anxiety and or with depression to go out there and take risk, to put yourself out there. Maybe you have someone that wants to put themselves out there and are willing to take that risk, but maybe they're not getting their underlying issues addressed. Maybe they lack self-confidence, self-esteem. Maybe there's someone who lacks social skills. Maybe they're really awkward in social situations. What good is it going to do to tell someone to just go out there and put them, take the risk, when in fact, maybe they lack that self-confidence? People pick up on that, and then the person that's suffering from social anxiety is going to end up more hurt and having more feelings of rejection. So in other words, they are worse off than if they hadn't tried at all. And I just feel like there is such a huge negative stigma towards those with mental illness. Or people are just lazy. They're lazy. They just don't want to get up and do anything. Well, if it were really as simple as that, then you wouldn't be having all these people who are suffering from depression, anxiety, or psychosis, or these more severe forms of mental illness. And I think it's really time that we get angry at this negative stigma. It's time to really express that anger. Kind of just explode in anger. Just really got to sometimes unleash that anger when it comes to dealing with that negative stigma of mental illness. That it's not as simple as people make it out to be. People are being denied of their full potential. No one should have to be denied of their full career potential. No one should have to be denied of happiness because they can't establish or maintain relationships. No one should have to battle loneliness on a daily basis. No one should have to be ridiculed and thought of as a horrible person because they have this illness. And you know what another big problem is there are people, a lot of people out there who are willing to get the help. They want to get help. They want to have the tools, the skills, and the resources for them to be able to succeed in life. But the problem is, oftentimes, is location. That's one problem. Oftentimes people have to travel miles, hundreds of miles, to get the therapy that they need. And another even bigger obstacle is financial. Not too many people can probably afford $100, $150, $200 for a therapy session. And I think that's the biggest obstacle for people who are wanting to get help, is they just simply can't afford it. And that is a very weak excuse for people who are battling depression and anxiety to have to go through this daily torment because they can't afford it. That is a weak excuse. And that is also something worth kind of exploding some anger towards. The lack of our ability to help those just because they can't afford it. So, letting out some pent-up anger. It's time that we have to take and stand against the negative stigma of mental illness. It's time that we can put an end to the suffering that those who are battling the rigors of depression, anxiety, or as I mentioned, schizophrenia, bipolar. Because in the end, the biggest punishment, and I feel the worst punishment, is loneliness, isolation, social isolation. And that can be a result of maybe someone not having a career that's enabling them to fulfill their basic needs, to be able to go out there and get the help so that they can go have the skills to establish relationships. And of course, if you're lacking the ability to form relationships, guess what? Oftentimes that person's going to be lonely because they lack the skills to be able to establish and maintain those relationships. And it's time to really get anger. Loneliness, there is an epidemic of loneliness. It's been on the news. It seems that nothing is being done about it. Nothing is being done about the epidemic of loneliness. And that's a shame. I mean, how many more people, whether they're musicians, comedians, famous people, how many more people, or maybe people out, people out there, family members, friends, how many more people is it going to take to lose before we wake up to the fact that the negative stigma of mental illness is literally killing people? That is why it is time to take a stand against the negative stigma of mental illness. No one should have to be denied of their full potential in their career, their relationships. People don't choose to become depressed. People don't choose to have anxiety. People don't choose to have schizophrenia. So, kind of felt good to just kind of vent out some anger, because it's time that something is done about this negative stigma. And so that way we can put it behind us and we don't have to continue losing more lives because of this nonsense negative stigma. So that's my spiel for now. Thank you all for watching. I'll be back. Peace out.